Good morning, everybody. This is the news we are waking up to Friday, December 6th, 2024. I'm Peter Lexievich in the dark again. I'll tell you, just between us, don't tell them. But I am so grateful to Tony Takiri and Dutch Cossack, who between the two of them got me everything I needed for a setup that lets me do this in the dark. I can't imagine, right? If we had to wait every time there was a blackout to get anything done. Those were the dark days back in June and July where it was like that. Anyway, let's take a look at a couple of things. In overnight drone attacks, the Russian Federation launched on the territory of Ukraine 53 attack drones. 32 of them were shot down, 16 were lost, likely due to electronic warfare, and two were returned to sender, which is always nice to see. That's a 94.3% interception rate. Now, as I feared, and as I talked about on last night's live, and I did a video about yesterday, it was my belief that yesterday we were going to see the Russians cross the threshold of 750,000 men lost. They are really like trying to do everything they can to get to 1 million, it looks like. Because as of today, right, yesterday's losses of 1,660 bring this grim total to 750,610 Russians, either killed in action or wounded on the battlefield. This does not include MIA, missing in action, or POWs. Now, with that in mind, I also just right before I started recording read a statistic from that General Sersky gave us regarding the Kursk incursion. According to Sersky, the losses for the Ukrainians in Kursk are about one for every two Russians, and about 8,000 Russians have been killed in Kursk, which would mean that 4,000 Ukrainians have died holding the Kursk salient, if he's being honest. I mean, we saw video footage the other day of two Ukrainian Marines taking out 20 Russian guys. So maybe the losses are not 2-1. Maybe that's a psyop kind of thing. I don't know. But if he's to be believed, then Ukrainian losses in Kursk are hard numbers to take. Yes, they are. Our boy Jake Sullivan here in a White House briefing yesterday, and we talked about this on the live last night, but I want to bring it to something else. He said that they will deliver a huge aid package to Ukraine before President Biden's term is out. And Anthony Blinken, of course, yesterday said that all of the 61 billion would be delivered to Ukraine before President Biden is out, that he has ordered it and it's going to happen. America has not been great with its promises. Let's face facts. So we'll see. But according to Sullivan, this package will include hundreds of thousands of artillery shells, thousands of rockets, and hundreds of armored vehicles. Now, there's a couple things about this. I just want to speculate here for a second. Because one of the things that we do know is that 300 Abrams M1A1s disappeared from long-term storage 2 years ago. 18 months, about 18 months. No idea where they went, why they're not there, or what's become of them. Could there be some Abrams on the way? Maybe a substantial number, 300 Abrams. If the ground is frozen, you could do a lot of damage with 300 Abrams, even 200, because the Pentagon was on track for refurbishing 90 Abrams a year for our own purposes, for our own defense. So if 300 disappeared from the lot, 90 of them were Pentagon related. That would leave 210 that are unaccounted for. Don't know what happened. Maybe they were just destroyed. Maybe I'm holding out hope for something that will never happen. I don't know. We'll see if they show up. Somebody asked in the live, what's the glide bomb situation? Is it as bad as it has been? So I looked into it, and it turns out that it is worse. The Russians are running more glide bomb sorties now than they have been at any point in the war. And the reason that is being given by military analysts for this is that the Russians seem to be having a problem getting artillery shells. It used to be, right, that the Ukrainians fire about 2,000 shells a day. The Russians were firing 16,000 shells a day at the start of the year. That's 8-1. Then it dropped to 7-1. Then it dropped to 5-1. Then it dropped to 3-1, 2-1. Now it's 1.5-1. They're almost at parity for artillery shells. That's great news, right? We know that the eastern warehouses of the Russian Federation are empty. We know that the Ukrainians hit massive 750,000 artillery shells in one hit when they hit Toropets. So it appears that the Russians are suffering from shell hunger, even with the 5 million that the Kim regime ponied up for them. Of course, by all accounts, only half of those are worth anything. So dig this. This is another crazy thought. I'm just riffing here. If the Biden administration does what it says and delivers hundreds of thousands, now hundreds of thousands is not 100,000, it's at least 200,000. At 2,000 shells a day, that's enough shells for 200 if it's 200,000 and they fire 2,000, it's enough for 100 days, right? It's enough for 100 days. But if you fired 4,000 shells a day, that'd be enough for 50 days. If you fired 8,000 shells a day, that'd be enough for 25 days. If you were suddenly in a position to out artillery, the artillerists, and pound the front line during the winter when everybody is fucking miserable and nobody can move anyway. If you could suddenly ramp up your artillery, what would that do to the front line that's already stretched thin, whose supply lines are already in trouble? I mean, I don't want to get my hopes up, but it did give me some hope, those facts and figures. Don't get excited. They didn't hit the Kerch Bridge. They hit the shipyards near the Kerch Bridge. We don't yet know the damage. We're waiting for damage assessments. But there is a large fire burning at the naval yard just near Kerch. What is it? The Kyiv, something like that. Ship port where we know there's at least one Kurikat class warship that's currently not in dry dock, but in repairs there. And a couple of other ships of the Black Sea Fleet that have been damaged. So we're not sure if they were going after the ships, if they were going after air defense in the area. We just don't know. Out in the Nizhny Novgorod region of Russia, where there's a bunch of oil depots, a bunch of defense industry contractors, and this airfield. Ukrainian drones are said to have hit this airfield or very near it. And it looks like they were going for the aviation fuel tanks based on that column of black smoke and that you see rising in the sky and the reflection of the fire below from the low cloud cover. So again, waiting on damage assessments there. That happened overnight. The Ukrainians are frustrated, and understandably so. We have drip, dripped aid to Ukraine under the notion of boiling the frog. That if we just gave Russia time to acclimatize to us crossing their red lines, that they wouldn't go nuclear. I don't think they were ever going to go nuclear. I think the whole de-escalation bullshit was a bluff on the Russians' part, and we fell for it. At least I hope that's what happened, that we fell for it genuinely in our naivete. Because the alternative is that some cold, calculating motherfuckers in Washington and Brussels said to themselves, look, why don't we give the Ukrainians are doing a good job on their own. Why don't we give them enough to stay alive, but not enough to win? And they'll grind the Russians down and we won't have a strong Ukraine to worry about when it's all over, yada, yada. That's what worries me. So Zelensky is determined that whatever happens, ceasefire, peace talks, etc., that it comes with real security guarantees, because God knows the Budapest Memoranda didn't do it for them. But I do want to take issue, again, on this notion of speculation, right? And again, I'm completely speculating here. But I'm not sure that the Budapest Memoranda wasn't in Ukraine's best interest. If nothing else, what it did was it gave the Russians a piece of paper that let them know that they had weakened Ukraine, it was under their control, and they didn't have to make it a priority, that they could control it as a puppet from afar. And as long as they believed that, it gave the opportunity for the Ukrainian people to stand up on their own and take control of their futures, which they did during the Maidan. If it hadn't been for that piece of paper, if the Ukrainians hadn't given up those nukes, I don't think Russia would have ever loosened its grip on this country. This country would be Belarus instead of Belarus being Belarus. So, again, it's hypothetical, but I do rather wonder what the future would be like if it hadn't been for the Budapest Memoranda. And finally, today is Armed Forces of Ukraine Day. Today we don't memorialize the dead, but we celebrate the living and memorialize the dead. And so for all of everybody that is out there that protects me, guards me in my sleep every day, I want to express to you my most sincere gratitude. You have the gratitude of the nation, I assure you. Thank you all. And that's it for me on Friday, the 6th of December, 2024, day 1017 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. I'm Peter Alexievich. We'll see you in the funny papers.